you don't have to lose who you are as a person to be a good mom.
We are made to do hard things.
It simplifies everything that we do in motherhood.
Sometimes we have to pull back and get that perspective. Like, why I want to do this thing. Why am I not doing it?
What would I love? Just let yourself go there. Let yourself dream.
Well, Chanelle, thank you so much for being here. We're going to take moms to school today.
Yes, let's do it. Back to school.
Well, what is your story? How did you get into life coaching? And I want to hear a little bit about your family too, because you have one more kid than me. So you kept going. And,
yes.
And I know that was building your family was a big part of you obviously becoming a mom and wanting to help other moms.
Yeah. So quickly, my family, I've got 5 kids, 20 down to 7. So the first 4 we had really close together, and we planned on having 4. And then we had a wonderful surprise, number 5, 7 years later. So there's a pretty big gap there. And so I have 2 out of the house, 2 in high school, and a first grader. So it's been a lot of fun. It's really great. And then I got into my work actually when my 4th child went to school and I was home alone during the day and I wanted to do some work. And a friend had recommended a company that was teaching English to kids over in China. And I applied to do that job and I got the job, only I live in California and with the time zone difference, they wanted me to work at 3 a.m. And I said, no, thank you. That job's not for me. And they said, okay, well, we have this other job. We really like your voice and we'd like you to record children's audiobooks. And I'm like, cool, perfect job. I would love to do that. So I did that. And then that went well. And they said, you have 4 kids, and so you must be a really good mom. And that always makes me laugh. So I'm like, it doesn't actually work that way. But because of that, they asked me to do a podcast for a Chinese audience about parenting. And so that went really well. I got a book deal from that. And then finally, a few years later, I started my own podcast here for a worldwide audience, and then started life coaching for that when I saw the need with the moms I was working in. So it's been an interesting journey, not necessarily straight to life coaching, but that's kind of how I got there.
That is one of the most fascinating journeys I've ever heard. And when you said a podcast for Chinese people in China, my jaw literally dropped. I'm assuming it was in English though?
Yes. So actually, I do speak Chinese. I was a missionary in Taiwan, so I speak Chinese, and so there was some connection there, but my podcast was in English. My book, I wrote in English and then was translated into Chinese, so it's easier for them to read.
Wow. That's just really fun. And so through all of that, and then you had another baby in the middle
yes.
of trying to, use up your extra time, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So clearly, you've been able to streamline, and you've made a lot of systems, and that's kind of how you coach. What would you say is your mission as a mother life coach?
Yes. Okay. Totally love that question, because my mission is to help moms take care of themselves so they can take care of everybody else better. I really feel like so often we think that, if we take care of everyone else, that somehow, some way we're going to get taken care of too. And actually we get so depleted that we're not our best and we're not able to take care of others as, to the extent that we want to. And so helping moms feel okay about doing a little bit for themselves and seeing how to do it, because there's 2 pieces of this. One is mental, like, is it even okay for me to do anything for myself? And the second is, okay, I would like to, but how can I realistically find the time? So that's what I like to help moms do, is really find a place for themselves in motherhood so that they are, yes, moms. I think that once you're a mom, you change fundamentally, and you know that that's the most important thing that you're doing. And if you can also keep some of yourself in there and come at it from this wholeness of a person, you don't have to lose who you are as a person to be a good mom.
I have a real sense that what you do is probably going to protect a lot of marriages too. I feel like in my life, just growing up, we watched a lot of our peers' parents become empty nesters and then lose their marriage at that point. And I thought, gosh, What? Like you make it 20, 25 years and then you give up? But I think when you said they lose themselves, moms tend to lose themselves sometimes, right? And then when the kids are gone, they don't have an identity, and maybe they also don't have an identity as a wife. So I hope and pray that what you're doing is also marriage protective, because that's
Yeah.
good for everyone in the family too. What is your method for helping moms get it together?
Yes. So what I teach is called the MOMS method. And this stands for manifestation, organization, mobilization, simplification. And this method is really just a framework that helps us to be very intentional about what we want and then take steps to get it. And so it simplifies everything that we do in motherhood. It's a way to look at what we do.
Should we break down each of those? Because I know in this point in time, this is 2024 when we're recording this. And when I hear the word manifestation, I do feel like, oh no, it's woo woo. We're going to be talking to the universe. And I think I've seen you say that it's not. Help me
Yes.
out. Let's walk through MOMS, please, Chanelle.
Let's do it. Okay. Yes, definitely. So manifestation, I wish I use that word because it starts with an M, right? And it does encapsulate what I'm talking about, except for exactly what you said. It does have this woo-woo connotation. And I really believe in faith-based manifestation. I am a woman of faith. I believe that there is a power beyond our own, and that power is God. And as we tap into and have faith, it is going to change our life. So, at its most basic sense, what I'm talking about with manifestation is picturing what you want. That's the most basic thing, is allowing yourself to dream. And this is really so powerful and so key for moms, because so many women that I talk to have forgotten this part. When I say, what do you want your mom life to look like? Or what do you even want to do? Well, like what outside of raising your kids and all those things, what do you want? They don't know. And it's really interesting, because if we don't know, we can't get it. And so that's the first part, is just that dream piece, allowing yourself to dream. Now, the second part, this veers a little into the woo woo, which is that once we start to believe that it's possible and we start to picture it in our minds, things start to come together. Opportunities arise that wouldn't have arisen before. I believe that's coming from God. Other people, we do hear this in this universe type way. The universe conspires to make it happen. I believe it's because God loves us and he wants to show us, like, yeah, you know what? I gave you that desire in the first place, and now you're allowing yourself to dream about it and think about it. Well, here's the next step for you. And so manifestation, that's the first part, just allowing ourselves to want something and to picture what that's like.
You know, it's funny, Chanelle, when you said this sentence, you said, and allowing themselves to dream is so, and my squirrel brain immediately finished your sentence into my head, and I thought hard for moms. And then you said powerful, which I love too. But do you find that for a lot of moms, it's actually really difficult
to really
find the headspace to dream? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is so hard. We have shut down that part of ourselves. It's like when you have kids, when we have a newborn baby, you bring this baby into the home and it is 24/7. That is all you can do. And sometimes I think as the baby gets older and, starts to be a little more independent, we forget that that's happening, and we think that it's still 24/7. Now, motherhood is always going to be a huge job, but we can also allow ourselves to dream and carve out little moments and picture what else could be here, what else is available here. So that leads to the second letter, which is O, for organization. Organization is when we take this, we picture this thing that we want, and we have this dream, whatever it is, whether that's something like, and let me give a couple examples here. This could be something like writing a book or running a marathon. It could be something like just having a clean house. Like, what would it be like to have my house clean? Like, I want a house that functions well. It could be something It could be, a marriage thing or relationships in our family, but we start to picture this, and that's just like letting ourselves dream. But organization is where we break it down into goals. Like, okay, if I actually want my house to be clean and functional, what needs to happen? What are the steps? Or if I want to write a book, okay, what do I need to learn? What do I need to do? What does this look like? What are the milestones? So organization is breaking it down into chunks and goals to be able to see that we're on the right path to getting there.
That was definitely helpful to hear what some of those sort of dreams might be. So the dream is that big vision, then you pull it down into some goals, some little chunks. This is feeling doable. What about the next M?
Yes. So mobilization is where we take to the streets, right? We make it happen. So the way that I best like to do that is through habits, because anything that you want to do is going to require some kind of little daily action. And I feel like for moms especially, this is really powerful. Because when we think about something big, I want to become an Instagram influencer and I want to have 2 million followers or whatever it is that we want, like that is so huge and so scary. But if we break it down and we say, well, what do I need to do every day? Well, every day I need to show up in Instagram stories, and it's going to take me, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it's going to take, but it needs to become a habit. So mobilization is that little tiny habit, that little piece that gets done every day. And what's powerful about this, going back, this kind of bleeds into the organization piece, is to say, okay, what specific things do I need to prioritize in a day and mobilize on? If I only could do 3 things in a day for myself, which is what I recommend, to say 3 things that matter to me today, and they're going to be tiny. I'm going to post 1 story on Instagram. I'm going to write 100 words of my book, whatever it is. But you do that day after day after day. That consistency counts. And then the final one is S for simplification, which basically just means cut out the rest. There's so much that we do that's not serving us. And so it gets in the way of our bigger priorities. So if you're spending time scrolling on Instagram, to keep going with the Instagram theme, and you're wasting your time there, get rid of that. If you're cleaning up the same broken toys over and over, you might need to simplify your stuff. Whatever it is, getting rid of those things that are keeping you from doing the things that you want to do that lead to your bigger goal. That, in a nutshell, is the mom's method.
That sounds awesome. I just said this morning to someone, I have so many weaknesses. I have to learn to hack them. Right. And so one of my personal weaknesses that I think a lot of other moms share is that it's actually really hard to stick to a daily habit. Like I might say, I'm going to post 1 Instagram story every day, but then I don't always do it. What advice do you have for squirrel brains like Katie?
Okay, I love this question so much. One of the best research on this comes from BJ Fogg, who wrote Tiny Habits, and he did a lot of research on what actually makes a habit stick. And there's a 3-part formula for this. It is trigger, tiny habit, reward. And so let's walk through this. Trigger. What is something you're already doing that you're going to connect that habit to? So maybe it's, the first thing when your kids, if you're homeschooling, as soon as they sit down to work on their schoolwork, you are going to pull up your phone and post that story. It's something that's happening consistently already in your day. It could be situational, like every time I go to the bathroom, when I'm done going to the bathroom, I'm going to do 2 squats right there. I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to do 2 squats, and throughout the day, I'll have done, however many squats a day, depending how much water you're drinking, right? So something like that, a trigger, something that you're already doing that automatically reminds you to do this thing. Now, the tiny habit is breaking it down. And this is where we go wrong a lot of times. If we say, I want to have the habit of running and I'm going to go run 5 miles. Well, that's not a tiny habit. It needs to be that small. So for your tiny habit, if you wanted to post an Instagram story every day, maybe the tiny habit is picking up your phone and opening Instagram. Maybe that's where you start. And you don't even have to post the story, do your story yet before you get to the 3rd step. The 3rd step is the reward. The reward is something you do right in the moment to make yourself feel really good. You say yes, or you pat yourself on the back, or you do a little dance. whatever that is, to make yourself feel like I did it. I am rocking this thing. I said I was going to pick up my phone. I picked up my phone. I went to Instagram. Immediately that sends a signal to your brain. You are doing such a good job. And you know what? Tomorrow, when the kids sit down to do their homeschool work and they log into the computer and you don't even have to think about it now, because you have created this positive loop. Your brain is like, ooh, that felt so good yesterday when we picked up the phone and did what we said we were going to do. And it triggers you again. And it's just this reinforcing habit. So if it feels really hard, that little routine, that little system of trigger, tiny habit, breaking it down to its tiniest piece, and then reward helps you get into the habit of doing it day after day.
That's awesome. I am so hoping that I can get into this, because I got to tell you, the person I was speaking to this morning was my new voice coach. Like, I'm taking singing lessons, and it's incredibly hard and it's terrifying and it drains me and I hate it, but I do it anyway. And, when you're taking lessons, you're supposed to practice in between. And I literally have had 2 weeks since my last lesson, and I practiced 0 times. I was so embarrassed, and I thought, what is the problem? So what I did was on my phone, I voice recorded the initial warm up. I said, can we just do the warm up? Like, don't correct me if I do something wrong. Like, I just need it in a section, because I think one of my many weaknesses was I had this huge half-hour recording in a Google Drive from my voice teacher, and I had to figure out where the warm up was, right? And I thought, it's going to take too long. Yeah. So now it's a 5-minute file on my phone, and I'm just crossing my fingers that I can figure out which habit or which trigger to stack the habit onto. It's so hard. I mean, it should be easy, but it can be so hard in implementation in reality.
Yeah. Yes, but I love that. And that brings up something else. We make things so hard in our brains. Like, if it seems hard, just the act of finding the vocal warm up and listening to this 30-minute thing, it detains us from doing it. So like for me, an example here, I wanted for so long to write in my journal at night. I wanted to have a journaling habit, actually in the morning and at night. And you know what would often keep me from doing it? I didn't have a pen right there. And I'd sit down to journal and I didn't have a pen, or sometimes it wasn't the right color, because it has to be black, you guys. It can't be a blue pen, black ink only. I don't know. I'm weird like that. But it's so easy. You get up, you look for a pen. It's not that hard, but you know what? It was that much of a deterrent that I didn't do it forever. Now I have a pen that lives with my journal. And you know what? I journal every morning. No big deal, because it's all set up for me. It's there. It's just, we have to make it simple and easy for us to do.
Yes. Isn't that something too? Sometimes we have to pull back and get that perspective. Like, why I want to do this thing. Why am I not doing it? And when it's something as simple as the pen, obviously you needed a different perspective. Yeah. How does the mom's method and kind of your coaching and the way you work with women help others do what you just described?
Yeah. So we get really intentional. And I think that that's key. So often we go through our lives just on autopilot. We are living on habits all the time without questioning those habits. And so when we're able to take a step back and say, okay, what am I actually doing? And is it getting me to where I want to be? If the answer is no, then we need an adjustment. And that takes a little bit of intentionality. It takes a little bit of working through, okay, well, what are the habits I currently have and how can I shift those? How can I get out of those? And why do I even want to, right? So, and that's why the mom's method is the way it is. We have to start with manifestation, picture what you want, then break it down to goals, then break those goals into tiny habits. And so it really is a question of taking the time and space to look at what's already going on. And that's where a lot of times our brains, just like Katie, with the example that you gave of the voice lesson, we go, oh my gosh, that's hard. I don't know if I can do it. And we immediately opt out, like, oh, that'd be really good. I want to, but I'm going to go do something easy instead. And so it can be hard. And that's where coaching comes in, or getting help to have someone walk you through and like hold your hand while you do this process.
I have to say, on behalf of my audience, this was not me at all. But when you use the phrase, we need to take time and space, I flinched Not because not I have plenty of time and all sorts of mental space, but my audience, they
Yeah,
might not.
yeah.
What do you say to moms who flinch at the prospect of we need to take time because we're so busy. We're doing stuff for our kids. We're managing our house. How do you create that time to even think about dreams and goals?
Yeah. Okay. This is why most people come to me, quite honestly. So this is something I'm working with people on all day long. The place I recommend to start, and this might cause another flinch, is having a morning routine, getting up before your kids. And we hate it because we want our sleep. But this is the only time that I've found that works consistently. Now, some moms will fight back with me on this and say, like, well, I can stay up after they go to bed. And to that, I say, most of us, maybe you're the unicorn here, but most people, by the time the day is over, they're exhausted. Their decision making capacity is pretty worn out, and they are just ready for a bowl of ice cream and some mind numbing TV. In the morning, our brains are in a different place and they are ready. It's a whole, we won't get into the whole brain thing, but our brains are in a different state and they are actually at their best ability to be able to do this stuff, to dream, to tap into those things. And so don't worry, it's not like a 2-hour morning routine. I recommend getting up 10 minutes before your kids and having this time. Now, what does that time look like? It might just be sitting by yourself and thinking, what do I want this day to look like? What matters to me today? It can be that simple. Maybe it's waking up, having a cup of, herbal tea in the morning and sitting by yourself and just writing down any like goals and plans for the day. It can be that simple. But I promise something that simple, taking that time for yourself and that level of intention will change your day. And if you do that consistently day after day, you'll start to see like, oh, I'm focusing on the things every day that matter just a little bit more. So that's where I recommend starting, even though that can be a little bit challenging too, to get up early, but it makes a huge difference.
You make that very compelling, Chanelle. Very compelling. I will try to hold back my full body flinch when you said morning routine. Yeah, Katie has a lot of weaknesses. Getting out of bed is one of them. But I do hear you. I do hear you. And I think it's really important. Um, what about, here, obviously at Kids Cook Real Food, we teach kids to cook. And that is 1,000% one of those big goals where people desire it in a general sense. If I desire my kids to be independent, if not now, at least when they're 18, but it feels really big. How do you eat an elephant? And they go, I have no idea. I don't know how to eat the elephant of teaching my kids to cook. Do you think you could apply the mom's method to that wish of I want my kids to learn to cook or learn independent life skills?
Yes, 100%. And as I was thinking about this, our conversation today, as I was preparing for it and thinking about your audience, I thought, I bet there are some people who listen who pretty much have their kids cooking all the time. They've got this down and they're just listening for added tips. And I bet there are other people who are, this is aspirational, right? They're like, oh, I would just love to do that. Wherever you're at, the mom's method really does fit in here because you picture what you want. Like, okay, we have whatever situation it is right now. What would I love? Just let yourself go there. Let yourself dream. Like, what could this really look like in practice? Well, I would love it if my kids wrote down, like looked at the actual recipe and wrote down the things they wanted me to buy from the store. I would love it if they, and here they are, I'm seeing them in the kitchen. They're like cooking the meal and you're just seeing what this looks like and they're smiling while they're doing it and you have this whole vision. And then from there, okay, well, what needs to happen? Well, I need to teach them how to read a recipe and I need to teach them this and I need to teach them that. And so these become the milestones and the steps. And then mobilization, we take action. Okay, so today, what do I need to do today? Or what is the habit that I need to get into so that my kids are involved in the kitchen? And then simplification is get rid of the rest. What am I doing right now that's keeping me from being able to do this? Maybe in this case, it's a mental, it's like control or something like that, right? Or it's busy with something else. And so like, okay, I need to say they can't do a play date with a friend on Wednesdays because that's their dinner night. But again, the mom's method is really about intentionality. So whether that is working on more time for ourselves or bringing our kids into the kitchen to cook with us, it's taking that step back to evaluate all of those pieces of what I want, of the steps to make it happen, and then the habits that need to be in place in order to put that into practice.
Chanelle, you revealed something, I think, about the first M, the manifestation, as you applied it to teaching kids to cook. Because I noticed, I happened to realize when you said, oh, and they're smiling and they're not fighting. I thought, oh, is a piece of the first M manifestation that you're allowed to dream big, dream optimistically, ideally, without judgment?
100%, 100%. In fact, part of what is so important in that first M is letting yourself feel the thing happening. So you're not just like, okay, what do I want? Well, I want the kids to cook. That's very like dry, right? You don't feel it. But did you feel it when I said, and they're smiling? Maybe you can picture them sneaking a bite of broccoli before they put it in. And you're like, wow, they are loving this food. I'll share a quick example. My son he was a COVID kid, and I live in California, and they did homeschool. I should not even say homeschool. This is online traditional school, but at home. It wasn't the amazing thing you homeschoolers do. But it was online school, and it was a struggle. It was such a struggle. And so when he went back to school, he really struggled, and we didn't know if he was going to graduate. And I used this manifestation to get through because I was trying to white knuckle it. And I was trying to say, and I think this applies in a lot of places, right? I was trying to say, just do your work. Just, try to boss him around and nag him to death to get him to do what he needed to do. And it wasn't working well. Instead, I thought, I need to back up and I need to use this method here. And so I manifested it. I pictured myself in the bleachers on graduation day. And I pictured him in his cap and gown walking across the stage. And I felt what it would be like. Like I would just stand up and I would yell, yes, you did it. Woo! And I'd be screaming in the stands and it'd be loud. And, my husband would be there and my parents would be there with me, and just picturing this whole scene and what it would feel like. That led to the right next steps. And I think that that's so important because when I tried to come about it just from setting a goal, it didn't work well. And I think even with this idea of cooking, same thing. Why are we doing it? When we allow ourselves to picture what we actually want, what's the goal here? Well, maybe the goal is we've got picky eaters and we just want them to enjoy dinner. We want a happy dinner environment. And so we sit there and we think about everyone around the table and we're sitting there, we're talking about our day and everyone's eating and it's not a battlefield at the dinner table. When we picture that, oh my gosh, the next steps are going to come so much easier, going to be so much more natural, and, things will just flow in that way. So yes, manifestation is a huge piece of it. It makes such a big difference in all the pieces that come later.
I really can imagine that early in the morning time, and if you're journaling, is sort of the time where you create that world, you create that ideal, and then allow it to just be there, right? As you keep working through those goals and working through your day.
Yes, exactly right.
Well, you are creating something that is real, that I imagine you probably manifested it and thought it into being, but you're bringing moms together to be together in person. Oh my gosh, it's the opposite of COVID homeschool mess. because being in person, it makes such a difference, right? Yes. When we can truly connect as moms. Tell us about this new live event.
Yes. So it's called Mom University. And the idea is to get the training for all of the jobs that we do as moms, to have real in-person training, to connect with other women, to be there with other people who are doing mom life and who want to do it a little bit better. I feel like there is an element for all of us of winging it in motherhood. And yet there are things we can get trained on. We can get trained in our parenting. We can get trained in how to run a home. And then we can also learn personal development so that we can carve out this space and time for ourselves in everything that we're doing for our kids, figure out how we fit in there too. So that's what Mom University is. It's in April 25th through 27th in San Diego. And you can bet I am picturing all of the people, all of them just sitting in the stadium every day. That's what keeps me going. I just like, okay, they're going to be sitting there and we're going to be listening to these amazing speakers. And these women are going to come up after and hug me and be like, this has changed my world. And so that's the thing that lets me know, okay, what do I need to do today? I need to go out and share this.
It's going to be a fantastic event. Now, of course, everyone can't come because first of all, there's limited spots because it's a, live in-person event. Everyone might not be able to make it to San Diego. But how can everyone gain from you and learn from you? Where can we find you and what little gift do you have?
Yes. So I have created a program. I used to sell this for $400. It's called the Simplified Toolbox, but I'm giving that away for free as part of this Mom University launch. So you can get that at universityformoms.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, there is just an opt-in and you can get that. And what that does is walks you through some of the things that we have to do every day as mom and just breaks them down using the mom's method, making them a lot simpler. So things like laundry, meal planning, connecting with your kids, morning routine, just a few tools in your toolbox to make mom life just that little bit simpler.
That sounds absolutely lovely. And, as soon as I think of stuff like that, like, oh, could it be simpler? I get fearful. Like, what if it won't happen? And so I think your first step is going to be really critical for other people who are maybe feeling a little pessimism or a little bit of fear or anxiety about even dreaming that there could be something better, something simpler, something easier in the home management mom world. So thank you for that. This has been very inspirational and aspirational. I'm very practical. So I always like to end with a super practical step that any mom can take today or tomorrow that will feel that quick win.
Yes. Okay, this one's for tomorrow. I challenge you to get up before your kids, maybe 5 or 10 minutes longer if you're feeling it, but just that little bit of time before your kids, and choose what you're going to do with it today and then use that time tomorrow. So it could be journaling. It could be just sitting in silence, like meditating. It could be what we've talked about today. Manifest your day. It could be just picturing, what do I want in my day, in my week, in my life? So that is the challenge. That's the practical tip to get up before your kids tomorrow.
Chanelle, didn't I tell you not to make it hard? Sorry, channeling my inner 6-year-old. No, we are made to do hard things, right? And so if it feels a little hard, don't let that throw you off. Thank you so very much, Chanelle, for being here and introducing us to Mom University and your Simplified Toolbox. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie.